So yesterday was the worst day in the channel since Keir Starmer took over 703 illegal migrants in 11 boats before the election. We were told about smashing the gangs and about a new border command or whatever they're calling it. We are yet to hear anything about those things, since aren't we there have been protests, riots. There are millions of people who are angry, and immigration is now the top issue facing the country for most people, according to the latest YouGov polling. But the now Chancellor Rachel Reeves knew we'd end up here in 2016. She said riots could sweep Britain if immigration is not curbed after Brexit. At Labour Grande, former Labour Minister Margaret Hart has just said we're all at fault, that we've always been too frightened to talk about immigration. They all know it, we all know it, and yet we've got silence from Downing Street. Now this could be why. So a BBC reporter revealed that Sir Keir Starmer didn't want to mention immigration as a cause of the protest in case people thought he was suggesting the unrest was justified. Well, I have another theory. CRSTA knows what's coming. Thousands more coming across the channel. Every single one of them will have the chance to claim asylum. Labour has scrapped the British Homes for British Workers scheme. So Brits will not be prioritized for what little social housing stock there is. The 1.5 million new homes Labour wants to build, local councils will be given compulsory purchase powers to buy greenbelt land cheaply, and a lot of those things will have to be social housing. Who is going to live in that housing? And he's created a situation now where people who might want to demonstrate against that happening in their local area or might want to complain about it on social media now worry that they're going to be called far-right, arrested, and potentially put in prison. I wonder whether instead of dealing with illegal immigration, Keir Starmer wants to scare people into staying silent about it. I don't think he'll win that fight, but let's get the thoughts of my panel now. It's Daily Express columnist Carol M. I'm also joined by journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, former chairman of the Tory party. It's Sir Jake Berry. Yeah, Carol, I'll start with you on this. When you look at what's coming down the track here, so social housing, Brits no longer being a priority for that new developments, a lot of that being social housing, these thousands, hundreds of thousands of people being allowed to claim asylum when previously they wouldn't have been. Do you think he knows what's coming and he's trying to clamp down on social media now to scare people into not complaining about it?
He must know what's coming. My God, you just have to read the papers of past weeks to know what's coming. However, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem with him and a lot of people in the Labour Party, they don't see immigration as a problem. You know, when Starmer was DPP, he said quite clearly that he thought much of immigration or was racist, and he thinks that attacking immigrants is racist. So I think that is the problem that we have. He doesn't say he doesn't see that it's going to be a problem, but I think, he was very fond of calling Boris Johnson a liar, but in the election he promised us all that he had a ready-to-go plan to deal with immigration and a plan to deal with stopping the boats. We see now he has no plan what to work. There's no smashing the gangs. Robert Jenry came up with a really interesting figure today, and he was talking about what every immigrant will cost in a lifetime to this country, 400 grand per person. Now, they're working on the fact that it's 20 old grand year to keep an immigrant currently, so he's an illegal immigrant or a legal immigrant. That is any immigrant that you have to house and feed clothes. I'm guessing the ones, so we had 700 this weekend. All of those people have to be fed, clothed, house, they have to be given spending money, they get free NHS care, dental care, so all of that tots up, and they call it a social wage. It's about 20 odd grand a year, so all of this is costing a fortune to the British taxpayer, and I think this is why they get cross. And if Starmer doesn't realize that's what's coming down the line, he shouldn't beware.
He is Benjamin. I do wonder whether or not people now are going to be scared to post something on your classic, well-meaning local Facebook group, where it's like, oh, I don't actually particularly want this migrant hotel or this massive development around the corner from my house, so I'm a bit concerned. Should we do something like stand outside with placards, right? And then all of a sudden you've been dumb for trying to incite some hatred towards that group of people or inciting some violence against that block. I just wonder if it's quite calculated. This by Sayar.
No, I think what you're saying is dangerous, because confronting people that are inciting violence, are inciting hatred, things that have been illegal in this country about 40 years, have been on the statute book, whether that is on Twitter or a local Facebook group, or whether it's in the street shouting at a Muslim passing by. It is unacceptable, and I don't understand how you can sit there and say that somehow we shouldn't be clamping down on these crimes because they're on the internet. Well, I think
we should be clamping down on genuine crime, serious crime on the street. I do think we should be clamping down on genuine crimes, but there is a perv thing that happens here, which is that now the ordinary well-meaning people will be worried about, do I post on social media that I'm not particularly happy about a housing development that's going to be 45% social housing, that really, given the direction of travel here, is probably going to include quite a few people who might have just arrived to this country in my sleepy little village.
that's wrong. If you don't have a right to remain in the UK, then you're not eligible for social housing, whether it's under suggested changes of Angela Ree or not. So that's wrong. Secondly, the number of people, the rate of immigrants that are in full-time work and paying taxes is higher than the rate of British-born. So I'm sorry, Carol, but we as a country would be considerably poorer if we didn't have all the taxes from the working age people coming here.
So Labour said in 2016, Rachel Reid said in 2016 there will be riots if we don't sort out immigration. We didn't sort immigration. Now, to be fair, that was the Tories' fault. Okay, because Labour have just got in, but it's not as if this can be a shock to them, can it?
No, and just to pick up on that point, you're right that the Conservatives didn't get a grip of this, and we have our share of blame on not running away from that. I think the problem we've got with the Labour government is there's no real opposition, whereas Rishi Sunak, he's in Califor, so there's no real opposition. They have a massive majority. It is actually the closest thing to an elected dictatorship that this country has ever known, because there's no real power of the opposition to defeat any government, with majority of 170,170. I beg you, upon weak oppositions create bad government, and that's what I think KSTA is falling into, probably unintended a trap of. He has so much power that he feels that he can subjugate the British people with this sort of a culture of fear that if you mention immigration you're in some way racist. And the thing I would mention, just why I think, let me finish the thing I would mention, which I think is particularly pernicious about this: judges this week have said that people will be prosecuted and go to prison for being in the streets. These right, that's what the judge has said if you attended, even if you were just a spectator. So, if you came out your house, what's all this going on? Have a look what's going on outside. You could potentially be prosecuted. That is creating a culture of fear that is designed
challenging the legally on T-Sun. This culture of fear business, all right. There's a ridiculous thing that was going around last week, when these supposed 100 far-right rides were supposed to be taking place there, places around the country that I know well, that you know well as well, where there were boarding places up GPS, were shutting early, children were being told to leave school early. It's a place that I grew up in. I've never met a Nazi there, and somehow, because of what was going around on social media, this far-right Nazi threat, they were going to come out of the sky, and they were going to batter out of the place to pieces. All right, and now when people in that same area, mark my words, when we start seeing these new housing developments pop up and we start seeing people being put in, those who have only just come to this country, or social, housing etc. People will feel afraid now, I fear, under Labour to say anything about that, because they will be bracketed as, oh, we all have to.
No, we all have to have the me home, that it's not far right and it's not xenophobic to have genuine concerns about the uncontrolled numbers coming into this country, not just on control but unvetted. And the security services said quite clearly they're concerned about the numbers of people coming in from Muslim countries that are not vetted now. That is terrifying for us, and we can't be frightened to talk about that and to who they are, because they might belong to a certain religion. We have to talk.
Currently, Benjamin, we are importing both sides of the Sudanese civil war. Okay, we didn't exclusive on this at 9 p.m. last week. Alright, we've got people from the north and south of Sudan who have got a pitch battle going on in Cow, both groups of whom want to come here on boats. I've got a problem with that. I think most people would have a problem with that, but it feels as though at the moment you can't call that out in case you might be called a racist.
The vast majority of people coming into the country are legal migrants with a job in a very straightforward fashion. That's 0,000 of lots of them from Hong Kong and Ukraine who are fairly skilled. But I just want to point out that Jake Perry just had the audacity to sit there and say we're as near to an elective dictatorship we've ever had. A prime minister who thinks he can do whatever he wants. The last parliament prorogued parliament so it couldn't sit, so there could be a vote on nothing. You supported that there's a difference between a majority of HIPOC majority said you've got a prime minister doing what he wants from a bloke that was chairman of the part that literally shut down parliament, and so be a bit realistic about what your own lot did, which was terrifying and unnecessary. Thanks for watching this video.